We are community oriented. We are not loners by nature. We need one another. I do believe that we need one another.
Welcome to Women We Should Know with international speaker, mindset reset mentor, author, and your host, Lesley Michaels. With audacious honesty and candor, the Women We Should Know podcast presents the wisdom and life-empowering insights of women who are the embodiments of innovation and social evolution. Please join Lesley as she shares potent conversations that will inspire your personal and professional evolutions.
I am so happy to welcome you back to our wonderful podcast. As many of you know, at Women We Should Know, our focus is bringing you the voices, the audacity, the innovation, and the raw courage of women who are making dramatic changes in our world and bringing great upliftment to any numbers of people in a variety of different ways. Today, I am incredibly excited to bring to you just such a woman. Pati Hernandez left Chile when she was 19 years old and had a one-way ticket to the US and her backpack. Now that's audacity. Pati calls herself an improviser because she has so many gifts and talents in which she likes to play. She also calls herself stubborn. I find her humble. She is a professor at Dartmouth. She is a TED speaker. And in the mid-90s, New York's Lower East Side, she was working with Latin American women in adult literacy and theater. She's worked in correctional facilities for a very long time and recently participated in developing a film called It's Criminal, and you'll get to hear all about that as well. Pati firmly believes in arts, bringing arts to a situation, and she absolutely loves her honesty. Now, that's just a little bit about Pati. Honestly, this woman is so intensely interesting that yesterday, as I was reading through notes of our conversations, watching her TED Talk, reading all about her online, it was hard to know where to start. So in my tradition, when I don't know what to do, I just jump into the middle. It is my pleasure to welcome today Pati Hernandez. Hi, Pati. How are you?
Good, thanks. And you?
Oh, I am just honored and delighted to have you with us. I ran through some of the high points. I would like to start by inviting you to share with our audience one thing about you that they might not know.
That I am profoundly in love with life and with humanity.
That is beautiful.
Even if we are in a very tough place, but I do believe in our humanity.
That is so beautiful. And we are in a tough place. I know you have said that we are all part of a profoundly wounded society.
Well, I think there are many layers here on why I see that. A lot of it is part of my experience with the program, with telling my story, where I've seen and I've witnessed so much pain, so much emptiness, social emptiness. So from people that are in crisis themselves, lives in crisis, that live in crisis on an ongoing basis, right?
Mm-hmm.
To actually the mainstream, our community members and society members that are successful, that are fine, doing well, and so on, to anything in between, there's a point of emptiness and disconnection with between the system, what people need to be to succeed in the system, with what they want to be. And there's no space to be what we want to be, other than to respond to the system, to succeed within the system, within the system of the system, if that makes sense. And so that creates a lot of emptiness, loneliness,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and that's painful. I think it's very painful, and it creates division, right? We are community oriented. We are not loners by nature. We need one another. I do believe that we need one another.
Mm-hmm.
And we have created with shell that, I can do it. It's only me.
And the other thing that associates with what you're just speaking to is, I've heard you say that we cannot ignore our differences any more than we can ignore our privileges. And it kind of feels like that's what you're speaking to, that differentiation.
Yeah, I mean, yes, I think, differences are good. It's fantastic that we're different.
Yes.
I wouldn't, it's exciting. It's motivating. It's inspiring to see others and to kind of celebrate others, celebrate difference versus being intimidated by differences. And I mean, I would just imagine what it would be if we were really the same, the idea of sameness. I mean, that's pretty scary, pretty boring.
Boring is the word that comes to my mind.
Right.
Yes.
And it wouldn't take us so far to begin with, because we would be, yeah. So it's interesting, the idea of safetyness, right? Because we want sameness in order to feel safe. And why difference? Why the idea of difference is not safe? So there's a problem there in how we conceive our social engagement and our interactions and our being. And so our curiosity, our social curiosity gets limited, right? It gets restrained. Yeah.
You have lived in the world of difference from the time you left Chile because you didn't want to live in a dictator-ruled country, to the Lower East Side and helping the Latin American women really flourish into new expressions of themselves, to your work in the prisons, first with men and now with young Dartmouth women, taking them into the prisons and allowing the prisoners and these young women of privilege, many of them, to see how the differences actually connect them. How is it, Patti, that you became so courageous in doing what would be considered really scary things?
Well, I've never been afraid of people, if that makes sense.
Yes.
I've been afraid of moments with people, right?
Right.
And
I get the difference. I get it completely.
I just don't think that people, but our nature is bad. I think we have brightness and darkness. And if we cultivate, whatever we cultivate, that's where we're going to go. We're going to end up. And and I found that it's interesting, your question, because the truth is that as I was growing up in a dictatorship, there was a lot of insecurity that totally overtook my being. And I'm also wild. I like the streets. I don't read too much. So intellectually, I am very insecure. And then it's an intense time in Chile with the dictatorship. I was 14 years old when the coup happened. And it was really scary, right? And very repressive. So that whole package created a lot of insecurity in me. I never knew how to express myself. So I actually did think I was stupid, that I didn't understand things.
Mhm.
And all of it was a lot because of being nervous, because I thought I didn't understand. So, you're catching yourself, you're chasing your tail, kind of trying to do
Mhm.
something. And that created a place for me in the world that was very, 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 very sad, and with a lot of fronts. So I was very outgoing and funny and sort of athletic, and I did everything right,
Mhm.
but I was very lonely. And I
Mhm.
never knew, and I always thought, I do have something to say. I do have something to say. I do have something to say.
Mhm.
And I never, so then I came here, I left, and I just, I think I am daring. I mean, people call me courageous, but the truth is that when you dare to do something, I don't know if there is courage there, you just dare. And you don't feel it that way. I never felt it like, ta-da, ta-da, I'm going to conquest the world. I was like, no, I just want to get out of here, because it's the most unhealthy situation. I didn't want to grow up in a dictatorship, and I was going. I was 10 years in a dictatorship,
Mhm.
so that was clear to me. And because I'm not afraid of people, who cares? Yeah, I can go anywhere, right?
Mhm.
So that
Mhm.
helped me. That helped me quite a bit. When I came here, I also, took many, I mean, many years.
Mhm.
I've been here 37 or 38 years, since 83. And the truth is that, wow, the program was the place where Patty found her voice
Mm.
and the courage to speak out. And
Ah,
so it's a gift of life in many ways, right?
it is. And that's really a profound thing. I don't want to miss that point because I know I've found that to be true. I've spoken with women all around the world who's found that to be true. That which felt the most scary, the most intimidating, the most frightening, in retrospect becomes the thing that is ultimately the most, can be for many women, the most empowering.
Right. And I felt, I realized when I started the program, which of course I had no idea that I was starting something. What I really, really, really saw was, it was a confirmation to what I always felt. I do have something to say. People do have something to say. Voice is important. Space for voice is important. All of that. Oh, just the effects of this effort to come together and to try to 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 create a space, a different space that is going to be nurturing to our voice.
Right.
And so that's it, and that's how people come together in many ways. If you have a space for voice, to me, without intimidation, without judgment, without uh, competition, intellectual competition or action competition, it's just with an attitude that it's inclusive. I was actually just writing, because tomorrow I'm starting another program, and I was writing about what I want to say and all that stuff, which I never know, and I know, and I do know, and it's that messy moment, and like how to convey all of that, right?
Mhm.
It, the,
Mhm.
the idea of people coming together, and the power of coming together, and what kind of space we need to create in order, where
Right, right.
how I stand with others, how much space do I take,
Mm.
right? Uh,
Mhm.
where is the power structure, like, and it's not about analyzing yourself all the time, but it is about being aware.
It is about being aware. Two things. First of all, we're speaking about your program. I'm familiar with it. And I can feel women out in the audience saying, what program? They keep talking about a program. So I want to speak to that in just a moment. But first, I would like to invite you to speak to something I've heard you speak to previously, which is the value and the importance of the muddiness and the perfection and the imperfection.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes. Oh, I think muddiness is sort of the acknowledgement of muddiness and the embracement of muddiness is really important because we are not predetermined. We are not set in stone. We are not, life has never been like that. And when I was in Nepal the first time, I was in Kathmandu and I totally fell in love, and I'm in love with that culture and with that place and all of that. And I walk on the streets forever and ever and ever. Just I kept walking on the streets because it was I was fascinated by that muddiness and messiness. That was so powerful. And it was so functional. So it was fascinating to me to see, hold on a second, how do I cross this street? I'm gonna get killed. You know, the street lights wouldn't work. I think I saw like 3 policemen in the 2 months that I was in Kathmandu, and it's intense. It's very intense, but it's not. But it works. And to me, the importance of muddiness is that you practice humility, that you are open, you are present, not exclusively for yourself, but for others. It's a very important practice and discipline. So you get, I remember in Kathmandu, you would, I was in a car, in a taxi or whatever, or the bus, and then you get into this corner and we're like, damn, it was like a huge mess, right? And how are we gonna get out of this? And then you see this beautiful moment in where you want to go there, and the other person wants to go here, and there were all these basically directions, right? And they were all attentive to where you wanted to go, and what others needed to go. So then it's almost like a mechanic, moment in where everybody click, okay, and I go and you went. So it is about everybody. It's not about me. And
I see.
I've been saying this. It's about, life is about trying. And it's about and trying to succeed. If you try to succeed, it's selfish, it's self-centered, and it's exclusive. If you try to achieve, it's inclusive, it's generous, and it's about everybody.
Oh, I like that.
And sometimes we achieve success, but in those moments we're all included.
Right.
So
right.
It's like utopia.
Yes.
Working,
yes.
Happening.
Exactly. Well, there have been so many conversations about the fact that the strive for success is a purely patriarchal model.
Oh, complete. And it's like, so let's also define what success is, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Because within the patriarchal model, it's rising to the top. It's having multiple homes, multiple cars, multiple whatever you have, you must have it in multiples.
Right. That's part of the emptiness that I was talking before, that you're never satisfied. How come you're not satisfied with the beauty of the earth, and that disconnection with Mother Earth is, of course, we're lost. Of course.
Right. Or be satisfied with going to Kathmandu and just walking for months.
Exactly.
Now, I want to go to your project, because this is a perfect segue to your project, because I know you're working with women in correctional facilities, young women in correctional facilities, and young women at Dartmouth, and creating a space where they can come together and share their voices. And we could get into all kinds of conversation about how the success model is part of what has created so many in correctional facilities.
So Ivy brought me down here, and because she went to see a performance up in the Northeast Kingdom with the men, and I was working there for 6 years, 7 years, me and the guys, and we had a great time. And
these are individuals in a correctional facility.
This was the biggest correctional facility in Vermont at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And they were wonderful men that helped me to develop the program. I had no idea what I was doing. I just, okay, sure, let's do it. Let's do something and whatever. And little by little, the idea of trust, I think that was the time with the men was very much about trust and how to come together. It's, we think of it almost like, well, no, we just come together. No, how to come together. It's complicated. It's complicated when you are in very different places in life, very different places in a social structure. To be again within through the lens, the social lens by which we kind of look at one another. I was an outsider and I had freedom, and they were incarcerated. They were incarcerated men, and they were losers, right? And so all of that, how do you come together? And it's not about, I don't believe, I banned the word help because I don't believe in that word. I come to collaborate. My approach is to come together, the idea of coming together and to collaborate. I think help is very lineal. It implies like a power structure, and I have and you don't have, kind of, all of that. The psychological aspect of that. So anyway, all of that, we developed that there. And then Ivy came to see, and she watched one of the final performances, and she said, the students have to be exposed to this. So that's when I came down here. I moved the work down here, and it was, I just thought it was important because here you have privilege.
Yes.
And we're talking about social privilege, right? Like structural privilege.
Yes.
And not even economical all the time, even though it was also economical for many of the students. And then underprivilege, right?
Yes.
Like really, like the top visibility and the top invisibility.
Right? Now that's a really interesting frame.
That's how I always see
the top is visibility and the top the bottom non-visibility. That's an interesting frame to consider. Because
I think that's how we manage, and we kind of we navigate our social reality.
Right.
We stayed in our bubbles and we just stay there. And I totally believe that we just have to do something else, because otherwise we'll never look at one another.
Right. I know you speak about reconciling what we are internally with what we have to be out in the world in order to survive, or even within a correctional facility in order to survive. There's that personal disconnect that seems to extend out into a world disconnect.
Right. Exactly. And I think we have very little time to think about that, because we're so challenged all the time, and we are so afraid of not succeeding, right? I need to make it.
Right.
We don't even know what to make it is, but I just need to do it. Right. So it's a very thoughtless.
Yeah. And it has to include a lot of money and a lot of multiples of possessions.
And it's and it has so much influence in us.
Yes.
And it determines our actions and reactions, our beliefs, And even though we don't believe in it, I mean, I believe in every single program, the realizations that I witness in people, because I'm always talking about aha moments, the aha moments. And those are those shifts, right? Internal shifts.
That's right.
Individual and as a group, shifts and realizations and movements, internal movements that happen.
Right.
When you're going through the program. And
so in relationship to the program, and you mentioned Ivy came to see a performance, share with our audience kind of walk them through what the program is, what the performance is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So telling my story, what it is an interdisciplinary arts program that works on the development of self-awareness and communication skills through the arts, while putting the arts to the service of the situation. So it's really, the focus is not the production, but it's a process, and it's what we want to, it's not even what we want to, well, it's what we want to achieve together, basically, right? Our effort, our common effort. It's the idea is, to me, the arts are very liberating, very encouraging. You can try so much, right? You don't need to take yourself so seriously. And at the
so if I come to a performance, what am I going to witness?
So what it is, there have been many structures to it. The one I was working with the students at the end it was so many people, because sometimes, like at the rehab center, there were, between the students and the women, there might be maybe 35 people. So that's a lot of people. To me, what we do, the final presentation, is really an excuse for voice. So the structure was 4 skits, 6 skits, whatever, it would depend. The skits had themes, and the themes were chosen by everybody, but really focusing on the voice of either the incarcerated people or the people in recovery, right? Just to provide that platform for them. That didn't mean that the students didn't have a voice. So they created skits. Each skit had like a limiting word and a possibilitarian word. And those were the themes, or the sort of imposed in many ways. This is the theme you're gonna work on, and they would make a skit, and about their lives. And then in between the skits, because we didn't have theater or anything like that, the women would write a poem. So the participants would be different participants would become kind of the curtain. They would stand right in front and they read their this poem. And we chose also a theme for the poems.
Right.
Then behind that person, there were the change of scenes. The next skit. It was quite lovely, and it totally worked, because you would focus on the person, you would focus on the text. Right. And then the backdrop is the talking walls, what I call the talking walls, which is a graffiti wall that the women put together. And it's like a graffiti wall that, to me, it's an inspiration that comes from Chile and from New York City, the time I lived in New York City, with all the graffiti and loaded, and so much life and so much intention and so much pain and so much need for voice, so much invisibility and so much imposed visibility, because there was no other way to express yourself, right? it was a really good place for people, some people that are not good on stage, that are intimidated by stage, to be on stage, then those places were very good for them.
Right.
And so, different.
So I get the sense it created this environment where two completely disparate environments, people from two disparate environments could come together in this neutral space,
right.
and share and know one another and speak and express themselves.
Right. So the students never knew what was going to happen. So there are 2 days, right? One day is theory at the college, and the other day is going to the place.
Right.
And they never knew. And one little idea that actually works really, really well was, so I took African dance classes for the longest time, and I love African dance. So my excuse to dance, to do it, and
everything's an excuse.
There you go. And people really liked it, and they did what I did was use all the steps that I knew to kind of teach a dance class inspired in African dance, because I don't consider myself an expert in African dance, but so inspired in African dance. And what I did was to teach the steps to the women.
Mm-hmm.
And then the women taught the steps to the students.
Ah.
So then you create
neutral, yes, a neutral space.
Right.
That's brilliant. And then all of this led to the creation of the film. It's Criminal. Right.
But also, I want to add something that's really important. The most important thing of the program is actually the testimonials.
Oh, right.
So everybody writes a testimonial, and the testimonial, I have like a structure, a small structure, that it's 2 parts to it: self-reflection, self-criticism, social reflection, social criticism. So the idea that it takes 2 to tango, right? And in any platform, of course, it's really important to acknowledge that there are different realities.
Right.
And it is important to acknowledge the differences. Right? Like if you have suffered so much in life, from abuse to abandonment, right? Versus having everything. We need to acknowledge that, or racism, or or classism, just any kind of reality that you are part of, or that we are working with, the idea of coming together. We have to acknowledge that.
Right.
If we don't, I don't think there is a possibility of healing.
Right. I agree. Until we can acknowledge where we are intentionally holding ourselves and each other apart, there is no potential for coming together as community. One of the things I think of when you were sharing that is what you speak of about how we're always trying to be perfect, and we hold perfect as more important than being honest and truthful.
Right. I think, I think we, I want to go back to, I think that happens because we don't have the space to really think and be with us, like the idea of being with us. It's not about me first. The problem is that there are 2 things kind of battling or in conflict here. One is the idea, sort of the systemic, the capitalist way of practicing individualism, right? And then it's me first, me second, me third, and me last one, just in case. So there's no place for anyone in this world but myself. And then the other idea is, the other practice is like to really be with yourself. which is, to me, it's really important. But it's not about me being the only important thing. It's about me being with myself so I can be my best version to the world, for the world.
That's right.
So that's so, right. It's a circular.
Right.
It's not about me, basically. It's as simple as that.
Right. Most of the women, now this is not all, but most of the women I meet who understand that are women who have traveled by themselves.
That's
nothing like going to another country, potentially a country where you don't even speak the language.
Yeah.
And just being in that space. You have to get very deeply inside of yourself to be able to relate to those other people, particularly in lieu of actual language communication, don't you find?
Yeah. Well, I also think, it's very humbling.
It is humbling.
Change, it's like, I remember coming here and I was so charged with the US, against the US, because they had totally supported the dictatorship in Chile. I mean, they were part of the coup and all of that. And I was young and I was against everything and right? And I mean, I'm not saying that it's not about being right or wrong, but I understood that part of the problem. So I get here and I was very angry with people here, which was interesting. And then one day I realized, hold on a second, they've never had the experience I had.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that was really humbling, and it was really important, because that's when you can really practice empathy, understanding of others, which is really important. So that, and I think that has been my base to going inside correctional facilities and not take it personal, from not taking personal to just not judge people, right?
Right.
What, I've had people that are really, 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 it's questionable, right?
Everyone's suffering. So we've come to the close of our time, but I am not going to let you off this Zoom until you tell people about It's Criminal.
So It's Criminal is a documentary that was made by Signa Taylor, who is a dear friend of mine. It follows the whole process. And I did Signa, I met her when I moved down here, and I didn't know people down here, and I wanted to start recording the final productions, and a friend of mine sent an email, and she was in I think in 24 hours she answered, and I was like, this is there's no money, but if you're interested, kind of thing, and she answered, I want to go. And so then she did quite a few recordings, and she was very touched by everything. And then she approached me and said, I want to make a documentary about your work. And I was like, do you really want to? I don't recommend you to do that, because, as an improviser that I am, I said to her, you can never, a few things. One, I'm going to always choose the program versus the documentary. So I'm going to protect it, which means don't ever step in between me and anyone else that I'm talking to. The camera can never, I don't know how you're going to disappear, but you have to disappear. And I don't want it to be about me. Can be emotional, but not sentimental. It's like all these little regulations that I was putting out there. But the main thing is like, I'll never be able to tell you what's going to happen.
Right.
And she was like, it's okay, I'll do it. And she did it. And I was like, when I first saw that thing, because I don't know how to make sense of myself, of my program. I really don't, right? And I said, and she was brilliant. And there's so much heart in that documentary, and love. And she just, yeah.
I know you said that during the documentary and explaining that all of your criteria, don't get between me and who I'm speaking with, and it can't be about me. I understand this a little more. But in speaking about the making of it, you said that taught you to trust the process that needs to happen, instead of the things that you want to have happen or that you envisioned happening, that you learn to trust the process in that.
What taught me, what I really learned with the program is that, again, right, it's not about my idea, right? How do you come together? How do you, like, for example, the idea of interviewing, I don't believe in agendas, basically. That's the bottom line. I believe on building an agenda as we go. Then we're all participants.
Well, that's the art of improvisation, isn't it?
Right. And then you trust, but I also believe that we are so used to the idea of, this is another concept that I have, it's intentional shapelessness. And I am shapeless intentionally.
Tell me more about this intentional shapelessness.
For example, the prompts are really general. So people go like, but what do you mean? It's okay. What do you think I mean? Or how do you read it? To me, it's more important how you read it than so I don't want to guide you in a very narrow way, because I want to hear you. Because
I get that.
You have your life, you have your history, you have your package that will always influence the way we listen, the way we act and react, the way we move ourselves in life. And I think that's a great way to know about myself and others. That's how we withhold judgment. So one of the prompts, for example, at some time was like dreams, and then women would say, but the participants in general would say, but hold on a second, is it about dreams that I have, like, want to achieve, or dreams that I dreamed? And it's like, I don't know, that's right. And everything is valid. There's nothing right or wrong here. There's just your path. There's possibility for your path, that you have to value what you bring, not be constantly ready to be a good girl for Patty. Don't try to prove anything to me. You're already here. And I'm very grateful that you're here. I just want to get to know you and to collaborate with you. I always try not to talk about others, but or for others, but I can talk about what I witnessed, right?
Correct.
In general, I think it's the beauty of looking at others without fear, without judgment. So all the stigmatization kind of goes away, and there is this very kind of beautiful hope and the idea of falling in love with others. It's not that it lasts. I think it's really scary, but I think it's a powerful experience. And what I have heard from students, from my friends, is that it marks you. It just gives you a different ways of and it does change the way you manage yourself in life. You sort of because it gives possibility, it gives agency, it gives power. We can be something else.
It gives agency. I like that.
It gives agency. We can be something else. We just have to make it happen, and it's really hard to make it happen. So the platform is very safe, and of course it's difficult to let it go at the end. It's very sad for everybody to let go, and I'm the only one that said this is good, because the end for me is the beginning, is the real beginning. So now you are on your own, and I'm here. You know that I'm always going to be here. Reach out whenever you want, but I'm not your mom. I'm your collaborator. So I'm not, come come and let's keep going. But, so it's the idea of building community and stay connected and all of that. But that's as much as it is, right? I mean, it's
that's a lot, Patty.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
It doesn't fly with the system, believe me.
Oh, well, you can't. Nobody can say too much about it. You're at Dartmouth. But thank you for coming. Thank you for sharing from your wisdom. Thanks for the conversation. I enjoyed that so much.
Thank you so much for everything. No, I really appreciate it. It's great to know you, and you're not going to get rid of me.
Oh, good, because I'm kind of like a pit bull with a bone when I get a hold of somebody I really like. So we're good. Thank you for all of you who tuned in to watch the podcast today. I sincerely hope you found some nuggets that will enhance your day, cause you to think in a different way, cause you to be present at a different way. And in closing, I would just like to remind you, you are stronger and wiser than you know, and nothing is beyond you.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We hope you received inspiration for expanding your own social innovation and influence. Help us inspire others by sharing this episode and leaving your comments over at lesliemichaels.com/podcast. For more tips, insights, and support in creating a fully audacious, professional, and personal lifestyle you love, visit our Women We Should Know community on Facebook.